Today, we delve into a fascinating and somewhat ironic turn of events in the often turbulent world of American politics and law. For years, the name Letitia James has been synonymous with rigorous legal scrutiny, particularly in her role as the Attorney General of New York. She's been a central figure in numerous high-profile legal battles, unafraid to take on powerful entities and individuals. Her tenure has been marked by landmark cases and a reputation for assertive action. However, the legal lens has now unexpectedly swiveled, and it's James herself who finds her past dealings under review. This unfolding situation involves allegations of financial impropriety related to mortgage applications, a stark contrast to the types of cases her office has often pursued. At the heart of this developing story are several key individuals. Of course, there's Letitia James, the incumbent Attorney General of New York, a Democrat who has built a significant national profile. Then there's Pam Bondi, a U.S. Attorney General during a previous administration, a Republican known for her own assertive legal career and her vocal criticisms of James in the past. And a name that has recently surfaced in connection with this matter is William Pulte, the director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, or FHFA. This agency plays a crucial role in overseeing the nation's housing finance system, including entities like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. It was the FHFA, under Pulte's direction, that reportedly flagged certain transactions and ultimately referred a case involving James to the Department of Justice for review. The allegations themselves center on several property transactions dating back a number of years. According to reports and publicly available information, the FHFA's referral to the DOJ concerns potential discrepancies and misrepresentations in mortgage applications associated with Letitia James. These allegations are multifaceted. One key aspect involves a property in Norfolk, Virginia. The core of the accusation here revolves around whether James accurately represented her primary residence when securing the mortgage for this property. New York state law has specific residency requirements for its attorney general, and the designation of a primary residence on mortgage documents carries significant legal weight. If the Virginia property was indeed misrepresented as her primary residence while she simultaneously maintained her primary residence in New York, it could raise serious questions about the legality and propriety of the mortgage application. Adding another layer to the scrutiny are questions surrounding a property located in Brooklyn, New York. The allegations here suggest that there may have been misrepresentations regarding the number of units within the Brooklyn property for mortgage purposes. The classification of a property, whether it's a single-family home, a duplex, or a multi-unit dwelling, directly impacts the terms and conditions of a mortgage. Misrepresenting the number of units could potentially lead to more favorable loan terms than what would have been granted had the property been accurately described. This kind of discrepancy can fall under the purview of mortgage fraud, which carries both civil and potentially criminal penalties. Furthermore, reports have also surfaced concerning older mortgage documents. These documents reportedly involve how James and her father were listed in relation to certain properties. The specifics of these older discrepancies are still emerging, but they add another dimension to the overall review. Even if these documents predate some of the more recent transactions, any inconsistencies or misrepresentations in past financial dealings can still be relevant, particularly if they point to a pattern of behavior. The initial reactions to these allegations have been predictably sharp and divided along political lines. Letitia James's office swiftly issued a statement characterizing the review as politically motivated, accusing the previous administration of weaponizing the federal government to target her. This response immediately frames the situation within the context of the often contentious relationship James had with figures from that administration, particularly given her office's aggressive pursuit of investigations and lawsuits against them. On the other side, Pam Bondi has publicly confirmed that the Department of Justice is indeed reviewing the referral from the FHFA. While acknowledging the review, she has so far refrained from providing specific details about the nature or scope of the inquiry, emphasizing the importance of due process. The political climate in the United States is undeniably charged, and this situation is no exception. For supporters of James, these allegations are viewed with skepticism, seen as a potential act of retaliation for her past actions. For her critics, these allegations provide a sense of vindication, raising questions about her integrity and the consistency of her application of the law. The unfolding narrative promises to be complex, intertwined with political motivations and the fundamental principles of justice and accountability. As this story develops, it will be crucial to separate factual findings from partisan rhetoric and to understand the legal intricacies involved in these types of allegations. The crux of the allegation regarding the Norfolk, Virginia property lies in the representation made on the mortgage application. When applying for a mortgage, borrowers are typically asked to declare whether the property will serve as their primary residence, a second home, or an investment property. This designation is crucial because it can significantly impact the terms of the loan, including interest rates and eligibility for certain types of mortgages. Lenders often offer more favorable terms for primary residences, assuming a lower risk of default from someone living in the property full-time. The allegation suggests that Letitia James may have declared the Virginia property as her primary residence at a time when her professional obligations as Attorney General of New York would have necessitated her residing primarily within New York State. New York law, like the laws of many states, often requires its top legal officer to maintain residency within the state. The Attorney General is expected to be readily available to fulfill their duties, which are centered in New York. If James was indeed living primarily in New York while claiming the Virginia property as her primary residence for mortgage purposes, this could constitute a misrepresentation. Such a misrepresentation, if proven, could potentially have legal ramifications, not only in terms of mortgage fraud but also in relation to her compliance with New York State residency requirements. It raises questions about whether she was truly residing in Virginia as her primary home at the time the mortgage was obtained and maintained. Investigators will likely be looking at factors such as utility bills, tax filings, voter registration, and other indicators of primary residence to determine the veracity of the mortgage application. Moving on to the Brooklyn property, the allegations here focus on the number of units within the building. Mortgage applications typically require borrowers to accurately specify the type of property they are purchasing, including the number of dwelling units it contains. This information is vital for lenders to assess the property's value, potential rental income, if applicable, and overall risk. The allegation suggests that James may have misrepresented the number of units in her Brooklyn property, potentially classifying it in a way that allowed her to secure more favorable mortgage terms than she would have otherwise been eligible for. For instance, a single-family home mortgage might have different rates and requirements than a mortgage for a multi-unit building. If the property was, in fact, a multi-unit dwelling but was described as a single-family home on the mortgage application, this could be viewed as a deliberate misstatement to gain a financial advantage. Investigators would likely examine building permits, property records, and potentially physical inspections of the property to ascertain the correct number of units and compare that to the information provided on the mortgage documents. The third aspect of the review involves older mortgage documents and the reported discrepancies concerning how Letitia James and her father were listed. While the details surrounding these older documents are less clear in publicly available information, the fact that they are part of the FHFA's referral indicates that they may contain inconsistencies or misrepresentations that warrant further examination. For example, there might be questions about the nature of the ownership, the relationship between the borrowers, or the financial details provided in these older applications. Even if these documents relate to transactions that occurred some time ago, they could still be relevant if they suggest a pattern of financial dealings or if they have implications for more recent transactions. It's possible that these older documents raised red flags that contributed to the broader review of James's mortgage activities. To understand the potential legal ramifications of these allegations, it's important to consider the relevant legal frameworks. Misrepresenting information on a mortgage application can lead to charges of mortgage fraud, which can be pursued at both the state and federal levels. Federal laws such as wire fraud, using electronic communications to defraud, mail fraud, using the postal service to defraud, and bank fraud, defrauding a financial institution, could potentially apply if there is evidence of intentional misrepresentation aimed at securing a financial benefit. Furthermore, providing false statements on loan applications is often a specific violation under federal banking regulations. Beyond potential criminal charges, civil penalties could also be pursued. Financial institutions or government agencies like the FHFA could bring civil lawsuits to recover losses incurred due to fraudulent mortgage applications. These civil actions could result in financial penalties, the rescission of the mortgage, or other legal remedies. The standard of proof in a civil case is generally lower than in a criminal case, requiring a preponderance of the evidence rather than proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Legal experts suggest that the Department of Justice will likely be meticulously reviewing all the documentation related to these mortgage applications, comparing the information provided with other available records, and potentially conducting interviews to gather more facts. The intent of the borrower is often a key element in determining whether a misrepresentation was intentional and therefore fraudulent. Investigators will be looking for evidence that James knowingly provided false information to obtain a mortgage under more favorable terms than she was entitled to. The complexities of mortgage law and the burden of proving fraudulent intent mean that this review could take a significant amount of time. It will involve a thorough examination of financial records, property records, and potentially testimony from various parties involved in the transactions. The outcome of this review will undoubtedly have significant implications for Letitia James's career and reputation, regardless of whether charges are ultimately filed. The very fact that a federal review is underway adds a layer of serious scrutiny to her past financial dealings, a scrutiny that is all the more notable given her own history of holding others accountable through the legal system. Let's examine the connection to the previous administration more closely. Throughout her tenure as New York Attorney General, Letitia James was a vocal critic and legal adversary of many figures from that administration. Her office initiated numerous investigations and lawsuits, challenging policies and actions on various fronts. This history of conflict creates a backdrop against which the current review of her own financial dealings is inevitably perceived. For those who felt that James's actions were politically motivated, the current scrutiny of her is seen as a form of accountability, a potential reversal of fortune. Conversely, James's supporters view the timing and nature of the review with suspicion, suggesting that it may be a retaliatory measure orchestrated by those who felt targeted by her legal actions. This dynamic of perceived political retribution can significantly influence public opinion and the narrative surrounding the investigation. The role of Pam Bondi in this unfolding situation is also noteworthy. As a U.S. Attorney General in the prior administration, Bondi was often an outspoken critic of Letitia James and her legal pursuits. Her current position as a figure within the Department of Justice, even if not directly overseeing the day-to-day review, adds to the perception of potential political influence. Bondi's public statements confirming the review are carefully parsed by both sides, with supporters of James highlighting her past criticisms as evidence of bias, while her own allies emphasize her commitment to upholding the law impartially. It's crucial to remember that the Department of Justice is meant to operate independently of political considerations, and any review should be based purely on the facts and the law. However, the highly charged political environment makes it challenging to separate the legal process from the prevailing partisan narratives. Public and media reactions to the allegations have been equally divided. News outlets and commentators across the political spectrum have offered varying interpretations of the situation. Some outlets have focused on the details of the alleged discrepancies, emphasizing the potential legal violations. Others have highlighted the timing of the review and the political history between James and figures from the previous administration, suggesting a politically motivated agenda. Social media platforms have become battlegrounds for these competing narratives, with supporters and detractors of James actively shaping the online discourse. The rapid dissemination of information, often filtered through individual biases, further complicates the public's understanding of the facts. It's important to recognize that public perception can be significantly swayed by the political lens through which information is presented. For those who already harbor negative views of Letitia James due to her past legal actions, these allegations may be readily accepted as evidence of hypocrisy or misconduct. Conversely, those who support her may dismiss the review as a politically motivated attack designed to undermine her authority and damage her reputation. This pre-existing polarization makes it difficult for the public to form an objective understanding of the situation based solely on the available facts. The media plays a crucial role in shaping public perception. The way in which news outlets frame the story, the sources they choose to highlight, and the emphasis they place on different aspects of the allegations can all influence how the public interprets the events. In a highly partisan media landscape, individuals often gravitate towards news sources that align with their existing political beliefs, further reinforcing their preconceived notions. This can lead to a situation where different segments of the population have vastly different understandings of the same set of facts. The ongoing review of these allegations against Letitia James underscores the inherent challenges of ensuring impartiality and maintaining public trust in the legal and political systems, particularly when high-profile figures are involved. The intersection of law and politics is often fraught with complexities, and the perception of fairness and objectivity is paramount. As this story continues to develop, it will be essential for the public to critically evaluate the information presented, to seek out diverse and credible sources, and to remain aware of the potential for political bias to influence the narrative. The integrity of the legal process depends on its ability to operate independently and to be perceived as doing so, regardless of the political affiliations of those involved. The coming weeks and months will likely reveal more about the specifics of the allegations and the direction of the review, and it will be crucial to follow these developments with a discerning and critical eye on the legal front. If the Department of Justice finds sufficient evidence to support the allegations of misrepresentation in mortgage applications, Letitia James could face a range of legal consequences. As we discussed earlier, these could include federal charges such as wire fraud, mail fraud, and bank fraud, depending on the specifics of the alleged misconduct and the evidence uncovered. A criminal indictment and subsequent conviction could lead to significant penalties, including fines, imprisonment, and damage to her professional standing that would likely be irreparable. The burden of proof in a criminal case is high, requiring prosecutors to demonstrate guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Even if criminal charges are not filed, or if a criminal trial does not result in a conviction, Letitia James could still face civil legal action. Financial institutions or regulatory bodies like the FHFA could pursue civil lawsuits to recover any losses they may have incurred as a result of the alleged misrepresentations. A civil judgment against James could result in substantial financial penalties and further damage to her reputation. The standard of proof in a civil case is lower than in a criminal case, requiring a preponderance of the evidence. The legal proceedings themselves, regardless of the outcome, could have a significant impact on Letitia James's ability to effectively carry out her duties as Attorney General. A protracted legal battle would likely divert her attention and resources, and the cloud of suspicion surrounding the allegations could erode public trust in her leadership. This could, in turn, affect the ability of her office to pursue its legal agenda and maintain its credibility in the eyes of the public and the courts. Beyond the direct legal consequences, the political repercussions of these allegations could be far-reaching. Letitia James is a prominent figure within the Democratic Party, and any findings of misconduct could have significant implications for the party's standing, particularly in New York State. Opponents would likely seize on any negative findings to attack her and the Democratic Party more broadly, potentially impacting future elections and the political discourse. The situation could also embolden those who have been targets of investigations by James's office. Any finding of impropriety on her part could be used to undermine the legitimacy of past and ongoing legal actions initiated by the New York Attorney General's office. This could create challenges for the enforcement of laws and the pursuit of justice in cases that James's office has been involved in. Furthermore, the allegations could have a chilling effect on other public officials. The scrutiny faced by James serves as a reminder of the intense level of scrutiny that high-profile individuals in public service are subject to, particularly in today's highly polarized environment. This could lead to greater caution in their financial dealings and a heightened awareness of the potential for past actions to be revisited and scrutinized. The broader context of political polarization and accusations of corruption also plays a significant role in how these events are perceived. In an era where trust in government institutions is often low, allegations of misconduct against a high-ranking official can further erode public confidence. The narrative surrounding James's situation will likely be shaped by pre-existing opinions about political elites and the integrity of the legal system. The handling of this review by the Department of Justice will be crucial in maintaining the perception of impartiality and fairness. Any hint of political interference or bias could further fuel partisan divisions and damage public trust in the justice system. It is essential that the review is conducted thoroughly and transparently, based solely on the evidence and the law, to ensure a credible outcome. Ultimately, the potential implications of the allegations against Letitia James are significant and multifaceted. They touch upon fundamental principles of legal accountability, political integrity, and public trust. The way in which this situation unfolds will have lasting consequences, not only for James herself but also for the broader political and legal landscape in the United States. It serves as a reminder that no one, regardless of their position or power, is above the law, and that allegations of misconduct must be taken seriously and addressed through a fair and impartial process. The coming developments in this story will be closely watched by many, both within and outside of the political arena. As we reach this stage, it's important to acknowledge that the situation remains fluid and ongoing. The Department of Justice's review is likely still in its early phases, involving the collection and analysis of documents, potential interviews with relevant parties, and a careful assessment of the evidence to determine whether there is sufficient basis to pursue further action, either criminal or civil. As of the latest available information, no formal charges have been filed against Letitia James, and the review is still in the investigative stage. The timeline for such reviews can be unpredictable. Complex financial investigations often require significant time and resources to thoroughly examine all the relevant information. It's possible that the review could conclude relatively quickly if the DOJ determines that there is no credible evidence of wrongdoing. Conversely, if the investigators uncover information that suggests potential violations of the law, the review could extend for a considerable period, potentially leading to formal legal proceedings. In the interim, the public discourse surrounding these allegations will likely continue to be shaped by partisan narratives and media coverage. It will be crucial for individuals to seek out factual reporting from reputable news sources and to exercise caution in interpreting information, particularly on social media platforms where speculation and unsubstantiated claims can spread rapidly. The presumption of innocence remains a fundamental principle of the American legal system, and it applies to Letitia James as it does to anyone under investigation. Looking ahead, several potential outcomes could emerge from this review. One possibility is that the Department of Justice concludes its review and decides not to pursue any charges or civil action. In this scenario, while the allegations may have caused some reputational damage, James would likely continue in her role as Attorney General, potentially framing the review as a politically motivated attempt to undermine her. Another possibility is that the DOJ files criminal charges against James. This would be a significant development with potentially severe consequences for her career and personal life. A criminal trial would follow, where the prosecution would bear the burden of proving her guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. If convicted, she could face imprisonment and other penalties. A third possibility is that the DOJ opts not to pursue criminal charges, but instead refers the matter to other regulatory agencies or state authorities for potential civil action. This could result in financial penalties or other sanctions, even if it does not lead to criminal prosecution. Regardless of the ultimate legal outcome, the political ramifications of these allegations are likely to persist. The scrutiny she has faced will undoubtedly be a point of contention in future political campaigns and public discourse. Her opponents will likely continue to raise these issues, while her supporters will likely defend her and portray the review as politically motivated. The situation also raises broader questions about the accountability of public officials and the potential for the legal system to be used for political purposes. It underscores the importance of maintaining the independence and integrity of law enforcement and prosecutorial agencies, ensuring that decisions are based on facts and the law, rather than political considerations. For American viewers following this story, it's essential to remain informed about the factual developments as they unfold. Relying on credible news sources and understanding the nuances of the legal process are crucial for forming an informed opinion. The story of Pam Bondi's review, or more accurately, the DOJ's review following the FHFA's referral of allegations against Letitia James, is a complex one, intertwined with legal intricacies and political dynamics. Its ultimate resolution will have significant implications, not just for the individuals involved, but also for the broader landscape of American law and politics. As the narrative continues to unfold, the focus should remain on the pursuit of truth and justice, guided by evidence and due process.